Hey, brother.
How are you, brother?
I'm good now, man. After that debacle, that fumble this weekend.
There's no fumble. It's just a gut check. It's just a recalibration. That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
You know?
Okay, I'll live with that. Yeah,
I'm so hyped. Man, I feel good.
Uh-oh.
Of course, you only see a corner, a small corner of the manifestation that we've created. You saw it, but you didn't see it like this. I gotta
I like
give you
it.
a kind of tour.
Looks very professional.
Yeah, the detail and the space. This is the space. The space is, I'm revealing a little bit of time, but it's 98% done. It's just
got
a
all
couple
your
of
equipment,
details.
got all your equipment hooked up and everything.
Everything. Furniture over there, interview area, green screen area, table to do stuff with the laptop, stuff to stand up in front of the, this is like a small apartment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Medium size. It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
Everything's coming, and I'm happy, and I'm glad that even though we know the new year may not be January 1st,
right?
The thing is that this is a new period, and
absolutely,
I'm grounded more, supported more, and I don't have to. And I'll tell this part, and we're going to get on with the show because it's not about me. You're here. Everybody's waiting to hear what you have to say. But
we always want to hear what you got to say, man.
In different parts of the house, because workers are doing stuff here. I have a little bit of equipment here, and I got to move it because they're doing something here. I got to go to a different floor because this is a 3-story structure, and I'm getting calls at the time when I go live. So I got to.
That's crazy.
But it's while still being in your own home, and it throws you off. I wanted a dedicated space. I know exactly what I want. I'm not a person to say whatever, but I wanted a green screen area. I wanted an area for interviews. I wanted an area for this area. I want different areas where everything is already set up. All I have to do is just boop, and it's there. And it's still sizable. This is a mini nightclub.
Yeah,
I can
looks like it.
Host, this is a little party space too. Private,
Okay.
And this is the thing. But the main thing is the spirit that you feel, the joy, the the accomplishment of seeing a place where it's nothing but a mountain and trees, and you have in your head something, you come up with it, and you make it happen, regardless as to what people say you can't do. I feed off of that. I'm here. And I feel strong. I feel good.
That's good, man.
A lot of good work to come up out of here. A lot of nights and mornings. So I'm happy.
Well, congratulations, because I know, unlike a lot of people who focus on themselves, that this is a community effort. That your heart really was focused on the family and everybody in order to bring forth more truth, and that's what it's really all about. Yeah.
So, and I look forward to the day where we can sit down face to face when you come out to Ghana. You won't have to worry about. They got some nice rooms here for you. You pick it, you choose. Nice area for interview. Nice balconies to relax, and you're not going to want to leave.
And you know what that reminds me of? You remember when Paul Mooney said they went back there to go back to the plantations, and one of the owners said, "Oh, we're glad to have you back. Your room is just like you left it."
Exactly. See, I always wanted to create a space where, like, you ever go to maybe a resort or maybe somebody's house, or there's something about it that you like, that you gravitate toward.
Absolutely.
I said to myself, I want to create something where every inch, every angle, every spot, everywhere here, behind these walls, behind the walls around the compound, that is a place where, oh, this corner, it feels nice. Oh, you ever get sick sometime in your home and you sit in a different part of your place and you say, man, I never sat here. This is kind of cozy right here. But it took me to be sick to be here. So for me, every place has to have a feeling. I get angry when I have to go out. I mean, I go out in the yard, but when I have to go out, go home, this is where it's at. You know?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
That's what it is for me. Being sensitive.
No better than,
and so I'm going to put together. And I had to bring, the last thing I'll say, I had to bring back the stripes. I had to bring back the classic stripes.
Oh yeah. That would jar everybody's memory from way back in the 2000s, early 2000s, huh?
Yeah. 2019.
Yeah.
So it's been years. And I just want to say, for those who say that the background's fake, do backgrounds move? So we'll squash that right there. But brother, we got things going on. You've been researching, you have tremendous insight, you tie these things together, and I really want to hear your flow on this because this is something current. And for those who need a reminder, I'm just going to flash the banner one more time.
Okay.
You can see I did shorten the title on the banner so you can see it better. But on the actual link, you see, Manchurian Candidate, is MK Ultra responsible for the terroristic acts in the U.S. And it's not just him, but he's the focal point. And
for a reason.
He said about this. Seriously.
For a reason.
Yes.
You know, the thing is, brother, before I start out, like one of the things that I don't know why we do this as a people, we forget things. We forget that we're dealing with, well, what can you call them? Evil scientists who have been experimenting with us for millennia. Okay. And so
long time.
For a long time. And so now that they have this, whatever plan they have, they want to include certain factions of people, mainly Black Muslims. That's what it looked like to me. Okay. Because, and I want to say how it was funny because it's not funny, but it's almost like you could feel something was going to happen on New Year's. You know, most people thinking, well, maybe New York, you know, one of the big major cities, Chicago, LA, and they duped us. And when I woke up that morning, you know, it's all over the devices everywhere. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, I've seen this before. Where have I seen this before? When both of the guys, you know, committed the acts. I said, this cannot be a coincidence. So throughout the day, I started trying to, because at the time, I wasn't even thinking about the Manchurian Candidate or MK Ultra. And then that night, like what always happens, New Year's night, you know, after I've greeted everybody, I get here, I sit down, and I start going through stuff. And that trailer I sent you, I was going through stuff, and Denzel Washington's face came up. I'm like, oh, because you know he does these motivational speeches and stuff now.
Yeah,
short. Right? And then it was like a light bulb went off. I was like, that's what it is. And I immediately started. I watched the Manchurian Candidate that night, New Year's night. I watched the first one that was done, I think in 62, maybe 64, and then which was a good one. And then I watched, because Denzel is a special brother, man. You see that look in his face on that trailer?
Yeah.
He brought that to life, and it was like a light bulb went off in my mind. And so I spent the next 2.5 days, you know, researching this again, and which we'll share today. But one of the things that I want to caution our people about, okay, if they're successful at painting you as part of this problem that they have created, or it's always got to be a boogeyman. ISIS,
Right.
or what's the other one? Al Qaeda, and the other one. They always have to create some kind of boogeyman to justify the evil that they have planned, and it's the same playbook. It's not like they're coming up with anything new.
But why don't we see it? Why don't we? Why can't we see the repetition?
I have an answer for you with that. I have an answer for you, and that's in today's script. That the reason we can't see it is because we are under some type of MK Ultra ourselves.
Yeah, I can see that.
And the reason why I know that is because people tend to think that the military was the only institution that was affected by this. Well, it was over 80 institutions involved with this. Colleges, universities, hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical companies. So then you have to go back and think, okay, if they've been planning this for the last, 71 years, then, you have to look at all of these different areas. And that is a very, very important question you just asked. And it's almost like we've been under some kind of, we know that we've been under some kind of spell with religion, with their religion. We know that.
Of course.
But to get into today's show, what I'm going to do really is take a couple of minutes and just lay out the plot before we get into MK Ultra, and then bring it into today's world, so we can have a clear, thorough comprehension of what we're dealing with right now. And so when you look at movies like the Manchurian Candidate, you have to look at the fact that it's a fictional account of an actual event that took place, not just it could take place anywhere. In this case, it took place in Manchuria. Okay, so and this was a very well written movie, and it just seems like all the ones that Denzel plays in. I believe he started directing movies as well, but he definitely has a spot on with whatever that subject is. He brings it to light, like he did with Malcolm X and a few other movies. So I'm going to read. Bear with me for a minute. And I had,
take your time, brother. The floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I had while I was watching a movie, I wrote down a bunch of stuff, but then I found something in Wikipedia that actually explained the movie a lot better than what I had written down. But, I'm not one of these people that get hung up on stuff like that. I just want to bring the truth to the people. The Manchurian Candidate is a novel by Richard Condon, first published in 1959. It is a political thriller about the son of a prominent U.S. political family who is brainwashed into being an unwitting assassin for a communist conspiracy. The novel has twice been adapted into feature film, with the title first released, it was 1962, and the second, of course, in 2004, when Denzel made it very popular. And the first thing you look at is this individual that wrote this book in 1959 had to have some type of insider knowledge about this, simply because the time period in which these experiments were conducted was between 1953 and 1973. So this novel that he wrote was first published in 1959. That's the first thing that jump out at you. So we're not talking about somebody that's just creating some type of fictional account of something. But in rare cases, you have a fictional account of something and a non-fictional account that seems to be intertwined. Major Rennet Marco and Sergeant Raymond Shaw and the rest of their infantry platoon are captured by an elite Soviet commando unit during the Korean War in 1952. And what's his name? Jeffrey Wright played a very good role in this movie. They are taken to Manchuria, brainwashed into believing Shaw saved their lives in combat, and after which Shaw was awarded the Medal of Honor. Years later, the war, now back in the United States, the war hero, Marco, now back in the United States working as an intelligence officer, he began suffering a reoccurring nightmare in which seated platoon members in which the seated platoon members are surrounded by a group of sweet old ladies. Sweet old ladies, imagine. Okay, and with these sweet old ladies and in the backdrop. So this went back and forth and between the Chinese and Soviet intelligence officials. Okay, so these old ladies were actually a part of this brainwashing process. So when Marco learns that another of the platoon soldiers has been suffering the exact same nightmare, Denzel, he starts looking into why this is happening. So Major Marco looks up Sergeant Raymond Shaw and discovers that Shaw's new manservant is someone he recognized from Korea. Marco and the manservant start fighting in Shaw's house, and both are bloodied significantly. Marco is arrested, and when Shaw sees that it is his old major, they rekindle their old friendship, and both find a love interest. All right. So this is where, in my mind, because see, one of the things that they do to us, and you know, there are politicians that's very skilled at this, where they make you seem like these major countries or these multinational corporations that actually run these countries, not the governments, they want to make you think that they're fighting against each other. When in actuality, we know that there are over 130 US corporations in China alone. Okay. They do the same thing with Mexico. So they hoodwink us to make us think that, yeah, America is fighting against blah, 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 blah. No, that's not what's happening. So this is a sort of Hegelian dialectic where you got the same people up here on top of the feudalistic system, or the 1% of you people like to call them, that are pulling the strings on the major governments and the multinational corporations, who are also many governments. So it is revealed that the communists have been using Shaw as a sleeper agent. I guess they like to call them sleeper cells, who is activated by a PHT, or post-hypnotic trigger. So what that means is, once your brain has been subjected to this type of alteration, then there is usually a trigger. And I know people I don't know them personally, I'm just saying people that are connected to these evil entities. These are some of the things they do. Okay, so this post-hypnotic trigger, which immediately forgets the assignments he carries out, and therefore can never betray the operation either purposely or inadvertently. So in Shaw's case, the suggestion that he play solitaire is the trigger. And seeing the Queen of Diamonds playing card transforms him into an assassin who would kill anyone at whom he is directed. Meanwhile, Shaw's KGB handler is his domineering mother, his own mother, Eleanor, who is married to a Senator Johnny Iselin. Eleanor has convinced the communist powers to help install her husband as president and allow them to, get this, control the American government through him. I don't know if some of you can pick up on that, but I'm going to read that again. Shaw's KGB handler is his domineering mother, Eleanor, married to Senator Johnny Iselin. Eleanor has convinced the communist powers to help her install her husband as president and allow them to control the American government through him. But as fate would have it, by observing Shaw, Marco discovers the trigger shortly before the National Convention of Iceland's political party. He uses the Queen of Diamonds, so like a backfire trick card, to draw out Eleanor's plan after she obtains the vice presidential nomination for Iceland. Shaw's assignment is to kill the presidential candidate on the same ticket as Iceland so that Iceland can succeed him. By blaming the killing on the communists will enable Iceland to assume dictatorial powers. So Marco reprogrammed Shaw, although it is unclear until the final pages whether this is successful. The convention, Shaw instead shoots and kills his own mother and Senator Iselin. And finally, Marcos is the first person to reach Shaw's sniper nest and get there just before Shaw kills himself with a gun. So that movie in itself, like I said, this was not somebody sitting down writing some type of fantasy that they came up with. This was someone who had insider knowledge or insider information, however you want to term it, about what was going on, okay? And all of these experiments that were being conducted, okay, that the public was unaware of. Because we always know that the media, the major media, is complicit with any type of operation at this scale. And when we go into the scope of it, we're going to look at how this happened. Okay, hold on a second here. Okay. Hold on for a second there. Okay. So let's talk about Project MK Ultra. Let's go back over what it is, what was the purpose for this, and how it even affects us today in a different way because of the advancements that have been made in technology. And before we go into that, I just want to say that the Chinese just recently, Chinese scientists just had a major breakthrough in the electromagnetic field, where their experiment yielded the results that humans can use radio waves to remotely transmit by using their brains to control and interact with EMF waves. Okay, so there you have it, where you know that now in the 70 years since this, that we have, or they have the ability to remotely control. And this, and when I ran across this, and I looked back at some, because one of the things they do, they wait to release stuff so they can put the right spin on it. Okay, so I said, okay, let's see what kind of spin they're going to put on it. So probably, I think it was Friday, I was getting ready to go to work. And I got up early enough so I can look at it again real quick. And then I saw 3 coincidences that really were not coincidences. Because once you go beyond one connection of something, the universe automatically lets us know that there's a connection, there's a polarity here. So, so I took the time and I looked at the bio that they had written about this guy. And when you look at this guy looked like a church mouse, man. This guy don't look like he could hurt a fly. And I started listening to some of his family members and people that knew him, and they were stunned. They was like, what? There is no way. Then I heard his brother talk. And then so I switched over to the white guy. Same thing. This is very odd behavior for someone. Okay, so you can say what you want, okay? He's in a Tesla. All right, he's in front of Trump Towers. You can say whatever you want. I don't care, okay? Those are not coincidences. So whatever spin you want to put on that, you can go right ahead. But the 3 things that made me really, really taking a hard look at MK Ultra was the fact that they served on the same military base. Now, it does not mean, even if they wasn't there during the same, because one thing I learned from my brother who was in the military, and by the way, I've seen that look on soldiers' faces, okay? I remember when my brother, the last time I saw him, I just couldn't, it just seemed so crazy. And he ended up probably 4 years after I saw him the last time drinking himself to death. And so, and also when I was living in Washington, D.C., because of, and paying homage to my brother and other guys I grew up with, I'd walk down to Walter Reed on the weekends. Or, you don't want to drive around in D.C. a lot. And, some of the guys would be standing out the fence. You could go in, you get a pass. I got to know, what was his name? Lieutenant Riley, I think that was his name. And he would always be at the little guard shack. And he'd let a few of us go in and talk to some of the guys. We get the little pass. And man, just the look in their eyes, like that look Denzel had in his face. And, said, brother, do you need anything? First thing out their mouth, cigarettes. All of them. And I'm like, wow. So I know that these guys run across each other if they serve on the same military base, okay? If you're talking about within I don't know what the time frame is, but he had to know, at least have seen this guy before. Okay, I guess stuff will come out later. The other thing too is they served in Afghanistan together. So now you have 2 connections. I don't care what you say, nature proves to us that this cannot be a coincidence. And then when you add the 3rd connection, and we know this is a celestial language that teaches us truth. And this is why they fight so hard to keep 2 parties battling at each other and all this and that, so that people don't have a 3rd voice. But they rented their vehicles from the same rental company in Colorado. So, you look at it the way you look at it, but clearly in my mind, this was some type of MK Ultra event, okay, that basically they just chose probably two of the most vulnerable people that they perceived to be weak or what have you to carry out this. Because remember now, we just read that the Chinese had just had a groundbreaking experiment with EMFs where, you know, they don't have to have you in an experimental lab like they did with the Tuskegee Institute experiments where they had the syphilis experiments. But let's get into what MK Ultra actually is, the MK Ultra project. It was preceded by, Project Artichoke, I think it was called, and Project Bluebird. Okay, so Project MK Ultra was a human experimentation program. Yeah, that's what I said. A human experimentation program designed and undertaken by an agency of the US government to develop procedures and identify drugs that could be used during interrogations to weaken individuals and force confessions through brainwashing and psychological torture. Okay, so between 1953 and 1973, this 20-year period. Additionally, other methods were used to manipulate its subjects' mental states and brain functionings. Number one, psychoactive drugs like LSD and other chemicals is without the subjects, and this was done without the subject's consent, by the way. Electroshocks, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse. Man, the program engaged in illegal activities, including the use of US and Canadian citizens as unwitting test subjects. So, with that said, let's look at the scope of this program. Like I said, one of the spins that they put on this was that they wanted people to believe that this was only conducted with the United States military dealing with terrorists and trying to get information from them. No, was not. In fact, I'm going to read this to you right here, the scope of it. MK Ultra's scope was broad, with activities carried out under the guise of research, get this, at more than 80 institutions. So I'm going to read this again because I know that this lie that has been put out about the fact that this was strictly a military operation, Lance, which it was not. It was not just a military operation. That is a bold-faced lie. We're talking 80 different institutions, okay? We're talking colleges. So why would a MK Ultra, and by the way, we have no data on, the extent of this mind-altering, whatever they did, act. We have no data on, you think it just went away? Or can it be genetically passed down like everything else? Universities, colleges and universities. What would be just like at Tuskegee when they did the syphilis experiment? So, what would be the rationale behind you conducting these type of severe experiments with college students? I wish somebody had an answer for that. Also, hospitals. So every time and we've been known this, particularly when it comes to our people. That's why, if you can ever avoid not going to the hospital, do not. This is why they're making people sick again. Because we know that the hospitals and the pharmaceutical companies, who are also one of the institutions involved in this, we know they work hand in hand. Okay. So I've never taken any prescription meds. I don't ever plan to. Sometimes if I deal with small basketball injuries, I might get some ibuprofen or Advil or something if it gets too severe. And use some of the old people's, my mother-in-law's remedies. But you have to be careful because they are this is, man, people like to talk about demons and different stuff like that. Then you need to look at this right here, okay? This is what we need to be focused on right now, especially Black people. Don't get caught up in these people telling you, oh yeah, we're gonna deport all these people and blah, blah, blah. They're looking for a way to find out how they can deport you too. In case you didn't notice. They are trying to go back to the days when they controlled everything. No, they're already going back to that. I pretty much had a white lady to tell me that, one of my potential donors, that, they wanted to, to have things back to normal, whatever normal is for them. And I was like, okay, I get it. I knew that anyway. But the reason I brought that up is because now, as we get into this a little further, deep dive, we're going to see that this plan, and I remember when I first found out from Dr. Leola Africa, maybe 2 decades ago, how all of these major institutions came together every year to study melanin, okay? Or people from all different walks of life or professions, mainly in the medical scientific fields, psychiatric field and, stuff like that. So the hospitals, and I want to get to this, the prisons. What are they doing so you see our brothers, they come out of prison, what do? Immediately, they kill one of their own. And then I hear that we have young brothers that are glorifying killings or who they murdered in rap songs. And you got the mother of these children that have to be traumatized again. This is the type of insanity that has been released on our world. Okay. Now, Lance, you got more knowledge of this, about how they operate in terms of how the organizational structure of the prison is. But I'll give a brief take on the experience I had in terms of when I was working on the weekends in the mental health division of the House of Corrections. We used to call it the Cut. But I think I told you this story before, but I didn't talk about this aspect of it.
Right.
That was when I lost my job because Ronald Reagan closed down all the mental health facilities. You remember that?
Right. Yeah, you told me about that one. Yeah. But start from the beginning. Start from the beginning and bring everybody up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So back in the 80s, 1980, when Ronald Reagan became president, My first job out of Morgan was at Maryland State. What was it? No, this wasn't. It was I can't even think of it now. I'm drawing a blank. But it was
Don't worry about the brain fart.
because I'm still under the weather a little bit.
No, I know. We
But
cool.
it was the largest mental health hospital in Baltimore. And I told you at the time I was studying to become a clinical psychologist, and so I took a job there as a psych tech, and I worked at night, so like 3 to 11 shift. And so when I went in one Friday night, I was going into work, and I got everybody standing out with these envelopes, these pink slips in them. And I'm like, what is going on? We have a bomb scare going on here, or what's going on? Because I get in here, I was like, no, what? They said Ronald Reagan just shut down the budget, the mental health budget of the United States, effective immediately. And this is when you begin to see. So they planned, it was a double whammy, because this is when they brought crack into our community. And this is when you start seeing these women with children in strollers at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, pushing them around, trying to do whatever they can to get $5, $10 to buy crack rocks, right? I was like, man, you gotta be kidding me. And I was like, yeah, it's over, man. Spring Grove State Mental Hospital, that's it. And I said, really? So I went home, and so no, I worked during the week, like Monday through Thursday, and then I worked at House Corrections on Saturday and Sunday. So I had Fridays off. And so I went home. I was talking to Linda about what's going on. She said, yeah, I heard about that. Wow, that's crazy. What you gonna do? She said, and she said, well, what about the mental health facility you work in at the Cut? And boy, I was like, I don't know. I have to wait till I go to work. So I went to work. I usually got there at 2:30, and Sarge came up to me, the guy that actually ran everything. So the H building, the mental health building, was off from the main facility. Did you guys have a mental health facility like that building?
It was a floor.
Oh, okay.
That was there just for that. And it was a huge floor because where I worked at the time was the 15th largest jail in the country. I'm quite sure by the way they were expanding that it was something more, but yeah, the 5th floor, where they had 15.
Wow. Then they had the nerve to have them up on the floor instead of the bottom floor?
Yeah, but it was fiberglass, thick fiberglass, bright lights. They had to be naked.
That's how it was at the Cut. Nothing
in the cell. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. You had to be naked and just bare.
Yes.
And right there. 15 minute checks when you go up to them, but they were constantly in sight. And these guys were messing.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Because as soon as we came in through the main building, and Sarge checked us all in, and he looked at me. He said, Frazier, you haven't heard, huh? I said, no, what? He said, the H building is shut down immediately. I was like, what? I said, does this have to do with that Ronald Reagan thing? He was like, yep, it does. And here's your check.
Oh, man.
I was like, damn. So, and I brought that up to bring up the guy, how I know that they experiment on prisoners, because they had this big dude from Baltimore, man. He had killed 2 people, right? Called Cuz. And, I was one of the only people he wanted to talk to. So before the mental health institution was shut down, or building H, he would know, he wouldn't even have a watch, and he would know what time I was coming. I remember one day Sarge was like, Frazier, I'm glad you're here, man. No, he called me earlier. He said, Frazier, can you come in an hour earlier today? Cuz is out of control. I was like, okay, maybe. So I went in, normally like the guards do, they escort us in there, like you guys do, right? And so I get there, and he's calling my name loud, and they always kept them, in handcuffs. So I was the only one. I would make them take those handcuffs off when I was in there talking with them, even though I had to have Sarge in there too. And, so it was this young white psychiatrist, right? He looked scared he looked scared. He was about maybe 40 years old or so. And the regular older guy, I don't know, maybe he was on vacation or whatever, but he was like, are you Frazier? I was like, yeah. He said, okay, I'm glad you're here. He said, so can you give me a background real quick on Edward? I think that was his real name was Edward or Evan or something like that. I believe it was Edward. I was like, yeah. So I got the notes. He said, no. He said, from what you observed, not notes. I said, oh, okay. All right, good. And so I started telling him what was going on. And that cuz was actually these three entities would torment him day and night.
Wow.
And they would have like 10 pills. They would give him 5 at a time. They would shackle him and make sure that he's fought. That's the only way he could sleep. And so he said, well, what do you know about his background? What do you know about? I said, well, I know that something triggered him and he snapped, but he's not a bad guy. Whenever I'm talking to him, we laughing and joking, and they're amazed at how, and I remember one of the nurses asked me one time, she shook her head. She said, you crazy. She said, you got to be crazy. That man is dangerous. He can snap your neck like a chicken in one swoop.
But brother, you have that personality. You have that way in the spirit. It's not just the way that you leave your words. It's your spirit. And people can sense that. Now, I'm not trying to compare a brother or a human being to a dog, right? You can have a dog that's stray or domesticated. You come up on the property, he's ready to rip your head off. But, and this goes with all animals, they could sense something in you.
Yeah, they can.
Inside.
Yeah, they can.
Because there was a guy in my unit, and I was special management, and everybody had to be one person to a cell. And there was this guy named Santos. This guy was built like a muscular sumo wrestler. He was big like a sumo wrestler, but he was also muscular. He wasn't veiny. He was just broad and big, and his voice was thunderous. But he was like a little boy. And I forgot how many people he murdered, but he was like a little boy.
Yeah, that's how cuz was.
I would go in when he had his time out, and we'd sit there and talk, and we'd talk and talk. I'd have him laughing, we're joking.
Yeah.
And
you have the same spirit, Lance.
Yeah. In his own way, he loved me. I'm not saying love like, hanky-panky, little funny business. I'm just saying it was a respect. And other officers would come and not know how to deal with him.
Right.
Pick him off. Now, I'll say one thing. This guy was terribly strong. They had these heavy metal, thick cell doors that had the heavy chains that, with the pulley system, DSO, detention service officer, we'd have to radio in and say, open cell 13, open cell this, whatever. There was one skinny guy who was always heckling him. Now, in special management in this particular facility, it might have been up to maybe 20 or 18 cells, whatever, I can't remember. But you only can come out 1 hour at a time in the day room.
Okay.
Not mixed like general population with other inmates.
Yeah.
So you can go to the door of another inmate. You weren't allowed to have conversations, But this guy was harassing him. And
Okay.
this guy Santos was telling me, he's like, he used to call me LL or New York. Say, LL, he's bothering me. He's bothering me, man. And he's upsetting me. He's talking about my mother, and I really love my mother. Like he was big and strong, but if you talked about his mother, it bothered him, as it would bother anybody else. But as a grown man, if somebody in the street says something about your mother, you don't even know your mother. It's like, man, come on, get out of here. You know what I mean? We get in elementary school, we take that serious. That he did. So the guy kept heckling him, putting him down. One day, it was my day off too. He started rocking the cell door, leaning up on it, rocking it, and lifted it up off the hinges. And he was on the second tier. And it fell down. Boom!
Damn.
He came out when this guy was doing his hour. And he got up on him. And he was crying. Got his fingers around his neck and said, I can kill you right now. Didn't do it. He threw him down and went back in the cell, and they had to put him somewhere else. But you don't know what makes people snap. It doesn't mean that they're like this all the time.
True.
The guys that I was around, a lot of them did some very terrible things in a day room, a bunch of them, and we're laughing and we're talking because they're not in that mode all the time. Remember still that with people, you can make them snap, and we're all capable if we touch the right way. But you have a soothing spirit. It makes a brother feel aligned with you and even protective. Not that you can't defend yourself, but I'm not going to see anybody do anything to you, brother.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because see, even though you didn't go there in the capacity of a visit, me as a corrections officer, when I went in, I became the visit for a lot of these guys.
Right.
Because we would talk
that's a good way of putting that.
Yeah. See, you became that.
Rather than being, part of this operation against them, we're actually, and you know what? So I used to
continue on, brother. Continue on. I just want to interject.
Were you finished?
Yeah, pretty much, but continue on.
Okay. So I remember, because the reason why he liked me so much too is because I was the only one that bought into what he was saying. And he would be like, Frazier, can you please take the 3 men out? Right. And so what I would do is I would say, get out now. Get out. Like that. Right. And he would be looking at me. He said, are they gone? Now you're talking about a 32-year-old goddamn 6'6", 250-pound man. And he's like, are they gone yet, Frazier? Are they gone? Like, yeah, they gone. I said, what are they saying to you? He said, they say they're going to eat my mama, they're going to eat my daddy, and they're going to eat my baby. I was like, well, they're not going to do that. They can't do that.
But you have to deal with them on the level that you're on. Like I say, it's almost like a fighter coming out to feel you out on the first round, feint you and see how you react and feel you out. Once you assess them, I'm not saying that once you get a feel of a little trigger stuff and you soothe them and comfort them, it makes your job a lot easier. You know what I mean? Yes. I had guys threaten my life just from the fact that I'm in Florida and I was from New York, right? Right. Some of them didn't like me because of that. So I made it into a joke. But there was one guy who had a serious problem with me, and his grandmother died. And I went to him in his cell and sat there and talked with him. And it ended up with him crying on my chest. I'm holding him, not no homosexual. I heard you tell that story before. Yeah, but brother to brother. And to this day, he still calls me. Really? He called me up 3 weeks ago. Wow. Look, and this was back in 2003, 4, and 5 when he was in. Wow. He's never forgotten. He listens to the show. I mean, I'm not going to say his name. Amazing. Yeah. The bond of finally seeing that somebody's concerned and can reflect back, he's going to walk with that for the rest of his life. And I'm going to walk with that too. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. And you got people out here who are jerks that don't understand that people are out here hurting.
Yes.
You know what that's like? I'm not saying to you, and I don't want to get too talkative, but you know, it's like, you're okay, you do something, you get locked up, you know you're going to get locked up, right? But still, it's affecting you. Still, there's some people who can't reason and say, if I do this, I can get locked up. Just like the gentleman who said, get them away from me. They don't understand. It's just, to them, it's just as serious as stealing some cookies that they were told not to take.
Yes.
And now they're in jail, but they're still feeling it. If they had a job, they're going to lose that job. No call, no show. You're not going to, the one call you get, you're not going to call your job. You're going to call your career. Maybe your family.
No, not at all.
Now you're isolated. They're used to being free and out there. Yeah, you do the crime, you do the time, but they're still feeling it. Now you're eating this nasty food. People are telling you what to do.
And you don't know what's putting in the food.
Yeah, you and I were raised in a way where we have discipline and we were taught certain things and we absorb certain things. Doesn't mean we're better, but some people don't have that ability. They're still getting harassed. They're still getting certain things. So when you treat them a certain way, and I can be hard too. A lot of them can be hard and firm. I'm not trying to go in ego and tough, but listen, this is my job. I'm going to give you respect. You're going to give me respect. We can have a good time. There's a couple things I may turn my head on, but you're going to respect me and I'm going to respect you. Well, one thing I do know, that I can do one thing and be out of this uniform and into a jumpsuit just like you. So I'm not here to make you feel bad or me to get some power trip, because we get this. You understand? So once they understood that, and you sit around, I sit around for the whole 8 hours. It was like a talk show. We talking, we laughing, and they got into the civility where it wasn't about, you see what I mean? That's why women are more successful as officers, because they don't come with that. Right. You see, or the men see them that way because they have the female energy. I'm not saying I got to have that. All I'm saying is that you can't go in there as a bull or a ram if you're going to escalate a situation.
Exactly.
You're understanding, but you have to be logical. Like, listen, you pushing me. Told you can have this privilege. I can't do anything more for you. That's above my head. If you want to give me a hard time, I can take it all away from you. Do you want that? See? And so they watch how you deal with others. They observe how you deal with others. You can't cut favors here and not be fair this way. You know, you got to be a certain, when they see you as a straight up guy, when they see you in the street, it's nothing but handshakes and hugs.
Yeah.
Right. But go ahead, brother. I'm sorry, man. That's
you know what? I feel you on that. And the fact that you're bringing that spirit to that institution, think what it would be like if you wasn't there.
Well, they didn't like it.
Huh?
They didn't like it.
Oh, I know they didn't.
They didn't like it. They didn't like it.
Because they want to treat them like animals, because most of them are black.
But that's what they wanted.
Yeah,
and we had a lot of black officers that had the same attitude because they were getting a nice paycheck, had a nice car parked outside in the parking lot, so they felt superior, and that's how they were stepping. And that those guys didn't get away. They didn't get along with me. They tolerated me. They didn't get along. But I wasn't what they call the inmate lover. Like you have some officers that come in and blindly, you know, I'm here to help you and the world's against you and all this stuff. No, I'm down the line. Deal with me how you deal with me. I know how you feel. And I would articulate back to them how they felt. I knew how to dismantle, excuse my French, the pricks. And even the pricks who don't know me, they see me in uniform and figure I'm like the other guys who treated them bad.
Right, exactly.
You won't be fair here. But you can't have no fear. You know what I mean? Like they can smell it. They can sniff it. Oh, yeah. There's no fear here. I'm not Superman. Maybe you beat me. Maybe I beat you. We shouldn't have to get down like that. We should verbalize. Because I'm not trying to sit here and fight with you. And I would talk a little street stuff. And I'll say it like this. I'd rather be home laying on my back having an act performed on me than me sitting here scratching your eyes.
Exactly.
And that's what it is.
That is a fact. So so before I left the shift that night, I saw the little young white psychiatrist again. And I said, hey, you have a few minutes, Doc? He was like, yeah. So we sat down. I said, listen, is Cuz really seeing these people that he's, beefing with? Is he really seeing these people? And he looked at me. He said, are you seeing me? I was like, yeah. He was like, well, yeah, he's seeing them too. And he said he is literally, not only is he seeing them, he's hearing them, because whatever happened to the synapses of his brain made a ripple.
Right.
Where just like they did in the universe, these evil people to allow these entities to come in. Well, the same thing works with us, as without within. I was saying, interesting. I said, so he actually, he was like, oh yeah. So years later, I was researching about this, and I saw how they started hooking up these electrodes to people's brains, and then they had a monitor. And so when these people started encountering these mental health, whatever they were, or demons or whatever they were, then there's a part of their brain, I think it's the Abdullah, I could be wrong, that lights up. And they was like, whoa, they're actually seeing these people.
Right.
And not only that, they're hearing them, because the audio portion of the brain lit up too.
Wow.
So now they're faced with a situation. Okay, these people might be crazy, but they're actually seeing and hearing who they're engaging with.
Right.
And so about maybe 2 weeks ago, I was coming back to the city, and on the train, and I got on this car, and I noticed half of the people were sitting all the way down on the other end, and this brother was sitting, here, right?
Mm-hmm. You know what that means.
You know what that means? And he's having a full-blown conversation with somebody. I mean, a very intense conversation. He was like, I told you not to tell her that. She can't secrets. And he was pointing, just like he was doing all the gestures, like when you're talking to somebody upset. And I'm looking at, so I said, you know what, I'm going to sit over here. I'm not really afraid of them. So I sat over by him, not maybe about 25 feet. I was sitting on the other side. We was the only two sitting in that cart, in that part of the car. And everybody was Chinese people looking at me all crazy, and white people looking at me all crazy, and I'm just observing him. And he didn't even know I was there. It was like he went on for about 20 minutes before his stop came up. He never even looked over at me. And he was having a full-blown conversation. The other time there were several times when this happened, but I'll just bring this other one up. I was on AC Transit in Oakland. And soon as I got on, same thing. This brother sitting back in the back of the bus, everybody sitting in the front. And brother, let me tell you, he was having a conversation with not one, not two, but three different people. Oh, wow. So he was doing this. He was like, well, what you gonna do about it, man? And then he said, I told you, and then he turned his head, I told you not to get involved with this, right? And then he looked back to him. He was like, so what you gonna do about it? He was like, you better not fucking say anything. And I was like, wow, okay. I didn't even want to sit up there. I said that, but I was there. I was like, oh no, this is beyond what I experienced before. And he kept on with these same people. And back and forth for about 10 minutes. And then finally it was his time to get off. And I was like, oh. Everybody's like, oh God, that was scary. Yeah. So one of the things we know is, we're talking about 80 different institutions. But we know they're doing something to our brothers in prisons, because when they're coming out, they're killing our people, like dropping them like flies. Okay. And this is something I've been observing for a long, long time. Now, let's bring this into today's world. Yeah, so the final thing about their scope, that they also operated using front organizations. And although top officials at these institutions were aware of this global institution's involvement. Finally, in 1977, a Freedom of Information Act request uncovered a cache, get this, of 20,000 documents related to MK Ultra, which led a Senate hearing. And some survivors or surviving information about MK Ultra was declassified in 2001, and several people were unalive that were associated with Project MK Ultra. Now, let's get to the main ingredients today. These are, although it's only like 10 of them, not only this is, I mean, that's enough, but we know that there are hundreds of these cases that happen in the U.S. every year. But these are cases that possibly was influenced by MK Ultra type behaviors. It goes back to the question you asked in the beginning, Lance. Why is it that we're not aware? So when they joke at you talking about woke, it's really a joke to them, because they know what they have done. But let's look at cases that possibly was influenced by MK Ultra type behaviors, and then we'll close with the one that happened on New Year's Eve, New Year's. The first one we have to take a real look at is our Hollywood celebrities and this inhumane behavior. Now, some of these things that I look at that these so-called intelligent people are doing, it just doesn't seem humane. It seems as if they're under the influence. You can call it drugs, alcohol, whatever, but it's something bigger than that. Because anytime you start dealing with children, or anytime you cross sexes, or you know, you have a situation where men are with men and women are with women, then you have already broken down one of the fundamental divine laws on the planet or in the universe. How do we know this? Because every single, well, first it starts with electromagnetism, which electro, the sun, is considered masculine, a masculine entity, where magnetism, or the moon that controls the waters. I know a lot of people have a lot of different theories about the moon. I'm talking about what it does now. I'm not talking about what it did in the past. Okay, but these two, or this major spectrum that we live by and could not live without, you see this polarity and this duality. Okay, you see the masculine principle and you see the feminine principle, and this principle exists in every single thing in nature. Whenever you ever, that's why dogs smell each other. Okay, because they want to make sure if they stick it in, they stick it in the right thing. So that's why, you know, whenever you see dogs, the first thing they do is they sniff the other ones to see, you know what I mean? And I was watching one time, even these birds, you know, and they were putting on an exorbitant display trying to attract the female and all. But this is rooted in nature, okay? So whenever you see a lot of our men that come out of these facilities, they are affected. To me, this is a sort of, and I'll tell you why I see this. This is a sort of MK Ultra influence as well, because it's unnatural. Okay. And these Hollywood celebrities, the things that they are participating in, it's really, there is some type of influence on Hollywood. There's some, we all know that it's an evil influence. Okay. And, we get caught up into how much fiat they make and all of this stuff. But this is the second phase of what Dr. Chancellor Williams talked about, the destruction of Black civilization. This is it. And they've been planning this for a long, long time. The second case that I really believe that was influenced by some form of MK Ultra type of influence is the invasion of the Americas. Okay, so you're talking about at least 50% of the foreign nationals were released from prisons in their own countries. So I'm going to say that again. And we're talking about military age men. So what they show you on the media is they show you all of these women and children. Okay. When they were in these prisons and wherever the hell they come from, I guarantee you, and this is another plot against our people, because everything that they use fail. Okay. We don't know when you look at, and I'm going to talk about this in one of the cases, but when you look at the type of behavior they exhibit, it's inhumane. Because human beings don't do this kind of stuff. So 50% of these foreign nationals were released from prisons in their countries. Now, I want to ask this question. Because last I remember, you told us about something that happened in a precinct in New York. But who gave them these military-grade weapons to kill Black Americans? Because certainly they didn't come across the U.S. border with these weapons, right?
Exactly.
They did not come across our border. But so where do these people that can't even speak English, can't even understand English, where do they get military-grade weapons from that they're in our communities with? So these are not things that are just happening just by happen chance. These are planned MK Ultra type experiments. That's the word I was looking for. Because they want to see what the result of this is going to be. The other thing I wanted to allude to, another case that was definitely influenced by some kind of MK Ultra type behavior, is setting another human being on fire on the goddamn subway in New York. You set another human being on fire, but yet you were born from a woman. I don't know if you have a sister, or I know you had a mother. This is not normal behavior for human beings. I don't care where they come from. This is definitely some type of MK Ultra influence. The Marine that choked the homeless mental health man after he was obviously subdued. And I looked at that very carefully. There's a way to choke homeless, you know it. You put somebody to sleep. Like, what's the guy that was in New York? Eric Garner, I think it was. Okay, that was murdered by this cop. The same thing here. Why, after this guy obviously was out, why you need to hold that position for another 3 or 4 minutes, or however long it was. You look at the George Floyd case. Now, it's interesting that I don't care what kind of drugs he was on. What gives this animal the right to put his knee on another human being's neck, a duly sworn person to protect and serve the citizens of that state or that city, for 9 goddamn minutes on his neck? And then when you looked at him, it looked like he was under some kind of influence, even when he went to court. So what they do is they get the coons to dig up. Look, man, a lot of people do a lot of things with drugs, alcohol, whatever, but that does not give you the right to take their life. He was not a threat to anybody else. You're talking about a $20 tab, I think it was. See, this is what we got to start dealing with, man. Okay, and then they bring up these pseudonyms, Black Lives Matter or whatever, to throw in our face. Because what they do is they make us a monolith. Okay, so we know that that's something that was started. We don't know who was behind that. But one thing we know is that you do not have the right to put your neck on. I don't give a damn what kind of drugs he was using on this human being, this man who has a family and children on his neck for 9 damn minutes. New York City, Lance, I know you saw this video with Robert Brooks. New York City correctional officers unalived Robert Brooks with an almost animalistic behavior after this man was handcuffed. These are cowards. These are straight out cowards. If anything, okay, if you want to fight, take the man handcuffs off. Give him an opportunity to defend himself. But for you to beat this man like they did, and pulling him up and dropping him down by the head, something got to be done about this man. But that to me is some type of MK Ultra effect. When we look at the political field, these intense racist verbal attacks on Black people can be linked to MK Ultra. Some of these people sound like they're out of their damn mind. Okay, they do. When I see some of these racist attacks on people on the internet, it's absolutely insane. They look like they have some type of serious mental health. Well, you know they suffer from schizophrenia, but this looks way beyond that. The other couple of things before we get into the final aspect of this. The spike in mental health issues among our young people I was talking about earlier. A man rapes a mother and his daughter. And this is not natural human behavior. And this was a brother, by the way. Just got out of prison. Again, we have the evidence that the prisons carried out MK Ultra experiments. This cannot be denied. They even had a Senate hearing on it. But they get angry at us when we tell our people the truth and remind them of this stuff and who we're dealing with, to try to shadow ban your channel. So we know we're dealing with these entities that are very, very wicked. Okay, they are beyond wicked in my mind. The last thing is the mass shootings and stabbings that have increased in the first 6 days of 2025. Now, let's go into this last part, because this is extremely important. We all know. Lance, did you get that picture I sent you with the electromagnetic waves running through the brain?
Oh, let me check for it. Let me check for it.
Okay. So I want to talk about something. About 20 years ago, I used to receive this magazine called Science and Technology. I used to get one every month when I was heavily into this stuff. And this one doctor, scientist, she was saying that there are microscopic, because people talking about, don't get the chip, don't get the, you already chipped. So she was talking about this microscopic chips or bots that are in our bodies and brains. Okay, that they are so small and microscopic that they cannot be seen without a microscope. And she was saying, she wrote this article that they are putting these chips, because what happens is you have, like we talked about the Chinese, so you have these outside links, neural links, that are connecting to these microscopic chips that are in our bodies, that are in the water we drink. They are in the, unless you're getting fresh water from the mountains or the bottled water, they're in the foods that we eat. We know this already. And they're also in a gaseous state, sort of like a, what's the term I'm looking for? A airborne pathogen. So now they don't have to spray with these planes anymore, these chemtrails. They don't have to do that anymore. Because remember now, nature is in 3 states: solid, liquid, and gaseous. So they have attacked us on all 3 levels. They attacked us on the solid matter level. They attacked us on the liquid level. And they have attacked us on the gaseous level, just like whatever it is I caught when I was out working the other day. And then they're constantly sending you or uploading stuff about, getting life insurance for your family. And what's the other one there? If you're on Medicare or Medicaid and all. So they're already planning for this stuff, just like they did before. Okay. So what happened was, about 3 months later, they found her dead in her lab. And because after I read her article, every month that I got the magazine, I was flipping through to see her. And I was like, wow, I wonder why she's not in here with the work she just uncovered. And so finally, about 3 months later, I got a magazine. They said that, she was unalived or whatever. And they were going to publish, no, they said, well, her work wasn't conclusive, so they couldn't publish it. That's how they shut that down. So let's talk about EMFs. Lance, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Lance. The only that it does is it shows, like in today's world, they don't even have to touch you. They don't even need to be close. They can remotely detonate a truck or trucks. They can be in goddamn Afghanistan somewhere. I was watching a program one time when there were military personnel over here guiding drones in some other part of the world. So, these EMF waves can cause brain dysfunction. And so these neural links that are being used now, we better get ready for it, okay? Because what they're going to do is try to tie some of our people with these anti-Black or anti-Muslim or anti-whatever movements that they want to get, set up so they can justify doing the evil that they do, while the people they support are killing men, women, and babies in the hundreds of thousands. So if I knew, Lance, if I knew that you asked me to help fund you so you can buy weapons, and I find out you are killing men, women, and children mercilessly, I'm complicit with that. If I know that that's what you're using it for.
Right.
So you're going to tell me, see, this is why I have a real problem with this Christianity stuff they got our people hooked on every Sunday or Wednesday, whenever they go. What kind of love are you talking about? They serve a war God and a bigot. And anything that God doesn't like, apparently, they kill, including you and me. But yet you want me to sing and clap with you and kumbaya with you and, oh, the Lord said this and the scripture said this. And no, I'm not going to do that. Because I see what you're doing. But yet you have these bigoted evangelical, mainly, these are the old ones. When they go away, things might be better. Because young people ain't with that. But they are still spewing, this hatred and using the Bible to fake people, bamboozle people. So finally, I want to go back to what has recently happened, this recent development, because there is a electromagnetic, oh, by the way, my book, Electromagnetic Warfare, World War IV, I talk about this. So at the time I wrote it in 2020, this had not been done, but they were moving towards this. But everybody said, oh, yeah, well, we're headed for World War III. No, the warmongers are. They're headed for World War III, but they've been in World War III for the last 25, 30 years without your knowledge. They have been in other countries killing folks. So what they try to do is they try to turn us against the military. No. We're not against our military. These are young Americans, mainly poor Americans from minority communities and a lot of poor white kids. We're against you using them to carry out this evil agenda across the world, and them dying for something that, like Pat Tillman, when he found out the truth, look what they did to him. So, we're in a time right now where all things are going to be exposed. They're going to be angry at us. They're going to try to fire back at us. But who cares? You're not as powerful as you think you are. But to wrap this up, the Chinese scientists just had a major breakthrough, as I mentioned in the beginning, in the electromagnetic waves, or the EMF field. And their experiment yielded the results that humans, get this, can use radio waves from the electromagnetic spectrum to remotely transmit by using their brains to control and interact with EMF waves. Bro, we're dealing with some real. See, this is why they want to keep us dumbed down here, because the minute you find out what they're doing, then they turn tables on you. You see what I'm saying? I ain't trying to expose. They changed the playbook on you. You see what I'm saying? And they want to make us seem like we're stupid. No, we're far from that. We're far from that. So when you see people who are in this field that are now going to be at the top of our government, we better look out. With that, brother, I'll end. Brother Lance.
Yes, brother. Thank you so much. Once again, very powerful. thought provoking. And I'm going to have to go over and listen to this again, what you shared.
Yeah.
Because it's the kind of stuff like a seed that grows. And you compare it to what's going to be happening in the next few days, weeks, and months. Because this momentum that's happening with what they're putting out there, it's not going to stop. I mean, I wish it would.
No, it's not going to stop.
We have to wake up and see what it is to be able to dodge it and avoid it, to anticipate it and know, because their evil agenda has been going on for not just a few years or decades, but hundreds of years. And the one thing I'll say before you go, just like you said, that they refuse to let the younger folks fight wars and battles with the evil agenda. Going back to Vietnam and before.
Oh,
this is always real. They put us in the front line. Exactly.
Yes.
Treat us like the enemy. See, we're too patriotic. We don't think, we think through the eyes and lens of that one that they feel is over them. You see? We're like water. We take on the form
war
of the
god. We gotta come up with a name for him.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Her, whatever it is. But it's definitely a warmongering god that they worship. It's no, but I know what it is. You ever seen that big ass owl that they worship? All the leaders of the world, a Luciferian owl. It was, they have it at what is it called? Bohemian Grove here.
Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, this big ass, that's why they don't like what's his name? But he talked too much, Alex Jones. He snuck in and he sent out and just like our president's laying in these caskets and going through these rituals for these entities. It's deep, brother. And you know,
he tried to get me. I wasn't going for it. Yeah, back in 1989. I guess really? They put my name on a list somewhere.
Oh yeah. It's obvious that they see you as a threat, a major threat. Because sometimes when I look at some of the other channels, there's a few of them I look at, and I'm like, are you serious? They're talking about celebrity gossip and all this stuff, and Lance is bringing on people that's trying to uplift and educate our people about what's really going on. I'm like, this is absolutely insane. But then, again, this is how we are taught that who our real enemies are. They come after us because they know that we are the carriers of the truth. And they don't want this truth, just like they've kept it out of the history books, but they want to keep our exposure from our people. So we got to come up with another game plan, man. I don't know what it is, because they're getting ready to ratchet up their attacks on our people. I feel that coming. And the last thing I'll say about that is because I watch them. I know why they do, just like you do, make the moves they make. So in the first day or two of this incident that happened in New Orleans, they had a young sister that was leading the FBI investigation. So the chief of New Orleans, this old white lady, you could see she was uncomfortable. And so the way I see it, the young sister who's an FBI agent, she was just saying what they told her to say, obviously, until they get some kind of spin on it, okay, or more information. She said this was not a terrorist attack.
I saw that.
The white chief officer, female lady, she said this was a terrorist attack. The next day, they had a white FBI agent there with her, with I can't think of the chief of police, this older lady that's in New Orleans, but they had him up there, and he was a deputy something of anti-terrorism. But that wasn't the worst part. Then I hear white people complaining about a DEI hire. Look, there are a lot of black people in in the FBI. Okay, there are people from all cultures in there.
Right.
But they could not fathom this young sister being in control of the investigation of something that major. And it could be other reasons why as well. But the next time they did a what do they call it, where they do talk to the public and give, update or whatever to the news, they had her standing way in the back and she was looking crazy. I was like, wow, this is really crazy, man. These people are really on some low vibratory-ish. It's really Tory-ish. It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Well, I better go take the vacation.
Thank you.
Try to knock it out before I have to go back to work. And as always, man,
this is the longest part of the week now because you got to wait a whole week to get you back home. But take care, brother. Thank you so much.
Okay, brother.
Thank you.
Lance. You too.
Much love. All right. Take care. Yes, I got popped into the middle of the screen, so I guess I'll run my mouth a little bit. I'm a little sweaty when I drink a lot. And I don't mean alcohol. I mean liquid. I just sweat. But I love the fact that I can sweat because there are people out here who can't sweat. What Brother Neil was saying is the absolute truth. I'll take this screen off here. You know who I am. Anyway, the way to deal with it, like he said, we have to come up with a different strategy. My thing, spiritual taekwondo, using the opponent's energy for your benefit. And fighting doesn't always mean you have to struggle back when they're struggling at you. Sometimes when they're not pushing you down, you don't let anybody push you down. But when they try to push you down, you hold on to them and let them hold you up. You have to think on your toes. You have to be very shrewd. And you can't ignore the enemy. You have to study the enemy. You have to study the enemy's habits and what they do, what their rhythms are. That's the art of war. And I instinctively knew a lot of these things before reading the book, The Art of War. But you have to be selfless. You have to be out of yourself. You can't be so caught up in yourself, ego and arrogance and condescending mentalities, because those are the things that do you in. You have to conquer yourself. When you conquer yourself, you can accomplish a whole lot of things. It's not the external. You always have the external things there to agitate you. You'll always have naysayers. You'll always have gossipers. You'll always have what they call the haters, but you can't really focus on them because they're there to do their job. And you're there and you're here to do your job. And so to me, it's a matter of being elusive. It's okay to disappear sometimes. Like I said, they can't hit what they can't see. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know what you're doing. But just like an ant that gets the anthill knocked over, the ants don't sit around and complain and say, you know what? This is messed up. That foot over there, that man came over here and kicked over our anthill. Lots of times the man didn't know what he was doing. Sometimes they do. You make a conscious decision. I was walking doing, there was a huge bug. I don't know what it was. Just walking along. And I could have stepped on it. For what reason? Let him go live. But the problem is, many of us, the very things that come at us are the very things that we have in our heart for other people or other life forms, right? But when it comes at us, we want to be disgusted. We want to feel upset. If we conquer ourselves and cleanse ourselves, you'd be surprised how much doesn't come at you. But it always will to a degree because these negative entities are attracted to your light. You ever go somewhere, like say a job interview or somewhere where you have to wait and there's groups of people for whatever capacity, and there's somebody that comes to the door and they open the door, and excuse me, I'm not itching my backside, it's my lower back, if you might need to know. But as soon as they come in the door and you lock eyes with them and you download the energy that they have, it's like you know them. And the only way you can do this with individuals around you and energies around you is when you conquer yourself, when you clean your own slate, when you conquer the things. If you're arrogant, if you're insecure, if you're narcissistic, if you have anything, it's going to be your demise. And you won't be able to read what's going on around you good enough. You have animals out here, which most animals have a way in what they call the wild. And like I always say, there is no wild out here. It's very organized. The wild is where man lives in his engineered civilization, right? But even in the so-called wild, every animal has a way of defending themselves. And they have to hone that, maintain that. Some animals have claws, some have teeth, some have venom. If they bite you, you die in an hour. Some don't have anything visible except the ability to run away real fast. I found out that there's an animal, never saw it before, but I hear it every night. It just made some noise a little while ago close to the house. Because you know, beyond my walls, there's all kinds of things out there. And I found out from a neighbor close by who was born and raised here, and he knows about these things. I said, man, what is this animal that gets, like at nighttime, it makes this noise? Ah, 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 ah. I said, I'd hate to run into that thing. I said, what is it doing? There's a bunch of them at night. They make this noise. The reason why it makes that noise, I said, why? Because it's scared. And it wants to scare off other animals, because it does sound kind of eerie at nighttime. It sounds like this big, monstrous thing. And so I believe when it does that, the other animals scatter. But that animal is scared, and that's its defense. And in the daytime, he says it rolls up in the trees, and you see it looking at you, but it can kind of camouflage itself. So we all have ways of defending ourselves. Do we want to engage in battle? Only when it's to defend somebody who may be at harm that I love. But other than that, go ahead, do your thing. Sometimes the best way to fight is knowing how not to get into a fight at all. Let them take their energy somewhere else. And that's a spiritual thing. That's a spiritual law in actuality. To conserve your energy. Any great fighter, any great boxer that gets older, he gets better. You may say, well, how does he get better when he's slower? He doesn't have the footwork. He doesn't have as much stamina. He still kind of punches hard, but not like when he was younger. How could you say that? Well, sometimes when you sense and feel your resources diminishing slightly, you learn how to conserve them better. You learn how to utilize them better instead of throwing it around all over the place. That's youth. But did you learn from your diminishing skills? Or are you learning from seeing the fact that you can kind of see your mortality? What adjustments do you make? Or are you going with the same foolish modus operandi that you've done all your life? Some people have learned they're never going to evolve. I'm not asking anybody to change, like change from an orange to an apple. It's not going to happen. But evolve. Minimize the destructive branches on your tree. I always say it. You go back to the old neighborhood, and there's that little tree that you used to climb as a kid. It looked like it was big. It might have had 2 or 3 branches on it. And when you go back, guess what? You see all of these branches. You're like, they must have took the old tree and put a new one here. But the tree had more branches. The tree evolved. And when you look at it that way and you say, I can see those original 3 branches that were on the tree. They got a little bigger, but now it's something else added on more. What are you adding on now? What are you adding on for 2025? And when I say this, I'm not caught up into the of whatever. Because really and truly, Professor Griff, he added me recently on Facebook. I'm always changing Facebook pages, and I looked on his page, and it said, "Is this the new beginning?" And he had a picture of winter, ice, cold branches with no trees on it, or rather, the new year begins in spring, where things are growing. So man is always off, but still, this is the first day of the rest of the new year, every single day. So I don't go by that. It comes from within. What are you doing today to make yourself better? There's always going to be opposition. There's always going to be enemies. How do you strategize to make your energy useful? Like that old fighter who knows he doesn't have the energy that he used to have, but he has a skill up here, but he knows how to make effective aggression instead of throwing away his energy on foolishness. Foolish people, foolish conversations, foolish thoughts that get you nowhere. Have you frustrated that in the first day or the first few days of 2025? Say, wait a second. I wasted a whole year. I'm in the same place. If you look around and see what I see, not that I'm gloating, not that I'm caught up in what we've accomplished a lot. While there are many people running their damn mouth. Okay, run your mouth. And for 2025, continue to do so, because we'll build, we'll ascend, we'll evolve. That's the problem. And you can't get up into trying to prove yourself to naysayers that are not about doing anything themselves. They talk it, but they don't do it. They're not doers. They may do some superficial, small little thing, but they're not doers. And this time next year in 2026, it's going to be the same situation. They'll talk a good game for the first few days and roll around February, March, April. It goes so quick. I'm surprised today how fast this day went quick. And for me, it went quick because I didn't get to bed until the wee hours. I was up. Every few weeks, I have a night like that where I'm awake. And it's for good reason. Because inside my mind, there's things happening, things to strive for. I'm sitting here looking to see how I can build, how I can change my reality or evolve my reality. Rather, I have to practice what I preach. I change but evolve. And everything we do as victory in our life, even the parts that we're not proud of or the parts we feel were non-productive, they were productive because the frustration you felt from not being productive makes you want to push more now. When you're broke, go window shopping. When you don't have that much to eat but enough to fill your stomach, fantasize about a new recipe and learn it. So you do have more ingredients, you can do something with it. That's the time when you start to create your new self. When you hit rock bottom, when you don't have much, then you start thinking, ooh, when things get better. When you're broke, go window shopping. It doesn't mean you're looking to spend money. Lance, well, how come when you go to shop for clothes, you walk right in the store, in 5 minutes, you're right out? Because the times when I didn't have much, I said, let me see what it is that I want and take time, try this on, try that on. So now when it happens, boom, boom. When you mess with a person who's trained to know how to throw certain combinations over and over and over, and it's repetitious. It's internalized. And the minute here you come with your untrained self, big belly self, no balance having self, and boom, 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 boom. Before you hit the ground, you were hit 5 times because this person is trained. It's not about fighting physically, but dealing with those entities who try to discourage you, dealing with those entities who try to drain you a little bit. I don't care if it's just 1% of your energy for the day, for you to even lock eyes with them or engage with them or try to get a one-up on them. They're already doomed. You have to see that. And of course, conversations are going to come in. The low vibrations are going to come. You got to bleep it off. I don't understand how people can sit back, you see something going on, and I know what it is. See, when you start talking a certain way, it's like in the movies when they throw holy oil on the demons. Oh, stop talking that way. You're evolving, and I'm not. I see you've accomplished a whole lot, and I haven't. This is not a race. Or if it is a race, it's a race with yourself. I have to race myself, not racing anybody else. I am my stiffest competition. I compete with myself every single day. The inner struggles of, you can stay in the bed another hour. You can get another bite of that food to eat. You don't have to do what you say you wanted to do. My feet do not I know how day is going to go. I have what I want to do, but I listen to my downloads for the best, most effective way. Before I throw a punch, before I make an effort, before I make a move, I plan it carefully, but I have to have it signed off with my creator. That's why my days are smooth. Even when things happen or get thrown at me unexpectedly, I'm thinking on my feet. You got to be able to think on your feet. If you're rigid, you're not going to make this game. You're not going to win this game. Okay, this happened. I got another plan B around it. Got to be that way. The spiritual warfare. Look, it's easy to get into a physical fight than to have to deal with the spiritual warfare. I'm not saying it to sound advanced or smart. That's what it is, and it's always going to be that way. The physical fight is easy. I'll knock some teeth out your mouth, knock you down, and be as vicious as I have to be to reduce the threat. But the spiritual warfare is something you can't see. And the worst part about it is, it's not just from people, it's from you. So on the inside, you got to battle things from the inside. So you got to battle things from the inside and the outside. How about that? How about that? So there's no time to waste with endeavors that waste time. Cut back on those things. Like the fighter who keeps winning all fights, when you learn how to be effective with what you have, you'll always be a winner. Anyway, this is Neil Frazier's show, and I'm glad to be on it. Metamorphosis, you broke it down again. I'm going to flash that banner again so you can see what we talked about. And we're going to have more shows like this. And I want to really settle it on a regular time because things are settling down in for me more so. And there will be the random stuff that goes up, but I want to build the backbone again. And thank you for your support of being here. And let me know what type of shows you want to, for us to have, or any topics. You can email me at lance@lancescurv.com. You can WhatsApp me right there on the banner. And all my contact information is below if you happen to miss it. So anyway, LANCESCURV is going to sign off. It's been a pleasure. And I like these type of discussions. I want to have more like it because there's a lot of things that hit my brain. I'm not sure if I come back later on. I'm 5 hours ahead of the East Coast. I'm early. There's someone to talk about that. Hey, in my spirit. And we just may talk about that tomorrow. I think I'm going to sign off tonight. And let me just check this chat room. Yes. Yes. I'm going to check out all these comments. And it will stimulate me to come back with something better. I just want to ascend. I want to get better. This is not 2015. This is 2025. Wow. And the more time goes on, this artificial construct called time, is the more it slips. And we kind of forget how fast it's going. And I remember when I was 5 years old in 1968, and 1969 came. Wow, that's a distance. Now the last 10 years went by faster than that 1 year between 68 and 69 for me. So we have to let go. We have to take flight. Before I start all over again, let me get ready to get going. But anyway, it's always a pleasure. And I want to have these type of discussions. And I will be back tomorrow night around this time, possibly in the morning. I do have some things I have to do, but I just want us to go deeper. That's the bottom line. We have to go deeper. We just can't stay as we are. All right. Much love to you all. Take care. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit me up on the email. Give me some ideas and suggestions. I want this to be interactive. And I want it to also be something that nourishes our mind, bodies, and souls. All right. LANCESCURV out. Much love to you all. Peace.